morning, viewers. Mike here. Let's talk about blade guides on this old bandsaw. And this is the blade guide here that came with my saw. Vertical bandsaws basically have one upper blade guide, which you're seeing here, and if it's not too dark up in here, there's a lower blade guide. And these blade guides all have these things in common. They have two hardened guides that are solid, and they guide the blade from side to side. And backing the blade up, the back of the blade rests against this little Torrington style bearing here. It takes the pressure of the blade as you're cutting. Now this particular guide here has the feature of, if you notice, there's a pipe thread over here, internal pipe thread, and it goes in and exits out here. And what's missing on this one, there would be a little flex pipe that came like this down and dribbled coolant on the blade. I'm not inclined to ever run coolant on mine. It just makes a big mess for no more cutting than I do. These little Torrington bearings back here have what they call a bearing cap that protects the bearing, and that's what the saw rides against directly. And here I've taken one out, and you see this blade cap is partially off. Now this particular blade cap is damaged. You can tell that the bearing didn't turn and the blade sort of dwelled too long in one spot, and it kind of cut it off. In fact, there's another spot on the other side that has the same damage. I looked these up. You can get these little blade caps. Boy, they're really expensive. So I don't know, I may try to make my own. I'm going to say that they're made out of some kind of high carbon steel, some kind of spring steel, maybe a 1095 or something like that. And so I don't know, I may make them, or I might just say quit screwing around and just go ahead and buy them and put them in. Also, this one little bearing doesn't seem to turn very freely. That maybe that's what damaged that cap. So I may have to buy new bearings for it. This happens to be for the lower. The upper, I can feel little clicks in the bearing on this one too. So I'm going to have to do something for the top of this also. So here's some other guides that came with my saw. And here's two here that I'll never use because they must come from a different saw, because the holes are in the wrong places. So I would have to adapt these if I ever used them. So I don't know, maybe I'll put those on eBay for someone. And then here's two right here. These are kind of curious looking blade guides because they're made on a bias. So if I'm correct, and if this is the top blade guide, if you notice, it would let the blade guide in such a manner that your workpiece would go through on about a 15-degree angle. I'm not sure exactly what the purpose of that is, but here's the top guide and the bottom guide. So that's something I have to address before I can actually use this saw, I guess. Not to mention I have to get some blade stock. And once I have the blade stock, I need to have a method to weld it together, which leads me to my next discussion. And this is the blade welder, and somebody has really jury-rigged this thing. The power cord comes out a little hole here that says annealing. This is where normally a momentary buttons type switch would be. I don't know why they did that, but anyway. Then there's a momentary switch here. This is probably what they used to replace that little missing button. And I'm going to make that I'm going to bring that back to original condition. But I have to remove all this old paint and polish up the welding station here. Up here is your heat settings for the various blade sizes, and this also controls the duration and the heat. And this is the trigger for once you have your blade in the jaws and so forth, sends the power through the blade for the resistance welding. Then this hole down here is where a guard went, and this is where the grinder motor shaft extends through and the grinder wheel runs. And then the top here, this is just a work light. So a couple things here. I need to put a switch in here somewhere. Whether I can mount it on this face panel or not, I don't know, but put a switch to control the grinder motor off and on, and the work light off and on. So I need to add 2 switches here, and then I need to figure out the wiring scheme on this old girl. And I wouldn't pretend to know exactly how this thing has to be set up to do its job. And then I see some of the wires coming off the transformer. This old linen wrapped insulation material is coming loose, and I need to repair those somehow, because I don't really want any bare wires in there. You can see they look kind of bad. There's a bare wire right here, and I may just put liquid tape over the top of that to repair it. But we'll have to get into it. It needs a lot of cleaning up too. So that's my mission on this blade welder, and that'll be what we tackle next. Okay guys, that's about it for this update. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks a extra bunch to the new subscribers, and we're picking up 2 or 3 subscribers weekly at kind of a steady pace. That makes me feel good, makes me motivated to continue these videos. So thanks again, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.